Well, politics. Who said politics is boring? Some 45 minutes ago, Sir Graham Brady of the 1922 committee slipped in the back door of number 10. I think he's about to say to Theresa, the game is up, love. It's time to go. So watch this space. I'm waiting now. I've got a guy waiting to tell me if she is going, hopefully. Please God that she's going. I don't think it'll make any difference if she does go. So let's get on with my little speech. Thank you very much for inviting me tonight. It's always good to come up north to see the Geordies. I probably won't be able to go home now. And I'm good, yeah. So 3 years ago, just prior to the referendum, I made a speech on St George's Day that was full of hope for the future. A future of independent Britain free of the EU. The following year, my speech was even more positive. The electorate had overwhelmingly voted out, and no politician would dare betray the will of the people. We were going to reclaim our sovereignty, our laws, our borders, and our waters. Last year, despite Theresa May doing her level best to frustrate the Brexit process, I still thought the will of the people was to be enacted, and that we would leave the EU on 29th of March 2019. However, the signals coming from Downing Street were ominous. A civil servant had been put in charge of the Brexit. The same person who had been an advisor to Tony Blair, Gordon Brown and David Cameron. Together with being a devout Remainer committed to a federal European state. So here we stand today, in April 2019, nearly a month after we should have left the European Union, celebrating our patron saint's day in a country where virtually every aspect of our life is still dominated by the European Union. Now, I know that many of you in this room have been working hard over the last few years, not only campaigning for the Leave vote, but also working hard to make sure that that vote was respected. All I can say is that your efforts fill me with real pride that the true British spirit will eventually prevail. The fact is, your hard work will make the difference between the UK surrendering to a fate of becoming one small part of a European superstate, or winning the struggle to regain its independence and maintain its sovereignty. The descent of the political elite into open rebellion against the people has been slow and calculated. On a personal basis, I'm convinced that the whole Brexit show, and I use that word intentionally, as that is what I believe it to be, is following a pre-agreed track with the ultimate intention of reversing the referendum and keeping the UK in the European Union. However, there is still one fly in the ointment for those elites that seek to betray the British people. You've got it, the United Kingdom Independence Party. UKIP has been derided in the media and unfairly branded as a xenophobic and racist for years. However, we have never before seen this level of media and establishment attack on our existence, which not only attempts to starve the party of any media exposure, but also seeks to close down discussion on the social media channels of our supporters. Yet no matter how loud some of the upstart partner shouts, UKIP remain the party the establishment truly fear. The party that forced and won the referendum. The party that is not afraid to speak its mind. And the party that offers realistic alternative to the tired, status spun that has ruled for too long. And look what's at stake for the EU. Since the referendum, the EU has voted to increase the budget by billions of euros, despite supposedly losing its second biggest contributor after Germany, which is us. The EU has also used Brexit as an excuse to push ahead with its long-term plan for a European army, known as Common Defence Union. While the first duty of any government is the defence of the realm, our remain focused establishment has seen fit to sign the UK up to all but one of the new defence structures coming out of Brussels since the referendum. However, never fear. May's withdrawal agreement also makes allowances for us to join PESCO at a slightly later date to make a full house. By remaining in the EU, we would not only relinquish direct control of our troops, because for years we've heard calls from the unions and Labour about building British military assets in the UK to secure British manufacturing jobs. However, these remain supporting hypocrites choose to ignore the fact that protecting the British military industrial machine is illegal under European law. All British defence contracts must be open to all EU nations, a condition that is only set to get worse once the full weight of PESCO swings into action. And the story of abject betrayal is the same for our fishers. Starting with Edward Heath's disgusting sellout of the British fishing industry in 1971, and up to the present day, coastal communities and fishers have been involved in a struggle that is almost akin to an abusive relationship. From ever-tightening quotas and the introduction of more and more red tape, to the concentration of FQAs in the hands of the wealthy few, the once mighty British fishing industry has been kicked around, lied to, and used as a political football. Politicians continue to ignore how fishing communities have seen their jobs stripped away by EU policy, how their standards of living have declined, and how vessels from across Europe continue to rape the seas of Britain's resources, while local boats are tied up through lack of quota. But fishers are tough people, brave survivors in every respect, and communities such as this one continue to stand tall in the face of the constant bullshit that comes from the Westminster and Brussels. And it seems bullshit is all that the government and the EU have to offer fishing communities. Despite our vote for freedom from the EU's clutches, time and again over the past 3 years, I have sat in fisheries committees in Brussels to be told that Britain's waters are too important to the EU for them to allow Britain to merely block access for EU vessels. In fact, from what I've observed, few on the committee have even countenanced Brexit having an impact on EU fishing abilities. Instead, they choose to arrogantly believe that Britain would capitulate to the EU pressure for continued common access. From speaking to my colleagues, the same was true in many of the committees in the European Parliament. In fact, that has raised doubts that Brexit has ever been taken seriously by the establishment parties, many of whom continue to vote for every piece of legislation the EU pump out. I believe Theresa May's withdrawal deal proves my point. No politician in their right mind could accept a deal that makes their country a vassal state of a supranational organisation, choosing total subservience over sovereignty, independence and self-governance. So on St George's Day, I'm going to end with a sentiment from one of my recent speeches in the Parliament. The Polish President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, you may have heard of him, recently said that he hoped there was a special hell for Brexiteers. While Donald Tusk may be praying for a special hell for Brexiteers, what he refuses to realise is many in the EU are already in hell. What form of hell can be worse than watching the descendants of our wartime enemies seize control of our economy, culture, laws, rights and employment? What special hell sees democracy ignored in the face of profit? Is Tusk's special hell like that of the British fishers forced to watch while EU trawlers rape UK waters? Or that of the redundant British workers after the EU paid for their jobs to move to another country? And what hell must it be for Britain's armed forces who face having to fight for a foreign flag? The fact is, many Europeans are already forced to live Churchill's mantra of, when you're going through hell, keep going. Just ask the Greeks. And that is why Brexiteers, Yellow Jackets, Greek protesters, the Catalonian movement, and Italian, Polish and Hungarian nationalism will never, ever, ever be silenced. All are going through their own special EU hell. Thank you very much.